always tries to trick us. It'll show us our face for a second. Then, hey, how's it going, everybody? Well, thanks for joining us again. It feels like it's been a minute since we did a Threat Thursday live.
Well, yeah, because you've been gone for 3 months on vacation.
Oh yeah, that's right. I guess that probably is my fault, huh?
I've done 2 of these.
Yep. So I guess that is just me. Well, cool. Let's get this one started. So today we are going to be talking a little bit living off the land and some execution methodologies, people. We've got some you've probably seen before in this list because they're kind of tried and true, and they're expected. You see them a lot from threats, but we've got a few that we thought were interesting. We were going to show off. With that in mind, Tyler, you want to show them the first one? I think that one's pretty cool.
For sure. Let me just change the screen a little bit. There we go. All right. So, like Trey had said, we're looking at some living off the land binaries and scripts. So a lot of these we pulled from, there's 1,000 different living off the land repos and things like that. But this main one from the LOLBAS project, essentially what we were doing here is just looking at we got to put the slash, just looking at what living off the land binaries and scripts they have identified as different mechanisms for execution, right? So just going through different ones that they had up here. Let's kind of start up here at the top. So I'll go through in the campaign view first, and then we'll execute it, and then we'll see kind of the request and the response from there. I think this will be a little easier to kind of talk through. So the first one, this computer defaults. Let me shoot the link over in the chat as well, so you guys can have that. The first one we're going to do is computer defaults. So this, just like it says, is a Windows utility used for managing default applications. I'm sure I zoom in enough for you guys to see it. Forget how small it is on there. So the computer defaults, how this one works is you set 2 registry values, and then once you have those registry values set, you can just run ComputerDefaults.exe, and it's going to launch that value. So the first one we have here is just in the current user software classes. Inside of this command value, we're going to just tell it launch CMD, and then from CMD to launch calc. And then the second registry key that we add is also inside of current user software classes, MS settings, Microsoft settings. And what this is going to do is this basically will tell this value to run, right? Delegate, execute. This is a part of the UAC bypass, so it should just launch it as soon as you run ComputerDefaults.exe. And then the next one that we had is Pester.
Yeah, Pester is a really interesting one. I didn't realize this was built in. I thought it was like a module you initially had to bring in. It's basically, think of it as a quick way to test your PowerShell, like scripts, functions, modules, anything like that you're creating and potentially going to export and use in other areas. So it's kind of like a built-in CI/CD pipeline directly in Windows already, because that's how they are, right? They're benevolent and they give you everything you need already built in, regardless of if you asked for it or not. Running this one is pretty interesting. You can call it directly from its path. From there, call like a help function, which is what we do in this quick little example. Call a null value, which is anything, which basically just breaks and stops that get help transfer from running, and then have it execute whatever you want. In our example, it's just throwing ipconfig, but this could be like your totally legit, not malicious binary in any way could run instead. So this one was really interesting, and mostly I think from the fact that it's just there, and I don't think that's widely known.
Yeah, that's definitely something we wanted to point out in this, is that we didn't download anything. Like, this is living off the land in the truest sense possible. All of these binaries or bat files or anything like that were just installed on our vanilla Windows Server test environment. We didn't download anything to do this, so more likely all of these should exist on your endpoints as well. So the next one up is Reg Server 32. So this is utilized by Windows to register DLLs. What we do with this one is you have to create a SCT file, and that looks like this here. So it's just a VB script that you can make. The really only important pieces are these 2 here. So we're going to set the object shell to create an object, and then that object is notepad.exe. In all of our examples, we're just going to launch like Notepad or Calc or things like that. We do launch a shell here towards the end, but it's just as an example, you can obviously change that to run, whatever application you need to run for whatever reason you're going to run it, right? But so how we're going to run this one is we have this SCT file, excuse me, hosted in the virtual file system. We're just going to download it and then use the reg server 32 to then initialize it, and then it's going to run it. So this should pop a notepad process when we run it here in a few minutes. Oh, let me put the link for this in there too, so you guys can have it. These are really great too. Before I kick it back over to Trey, we're not going to go into the detections for these, but almost all of these, or every single one of them, do have detections already in place. So really great resource. The LOLBAS project, really great resource. Has a lot of information in there, the resources of where it came from, the different detections you can use. If there's like a write-up on it or anything like that, it's a really great resource. Trey?
Yep. So next one up, we're talking about conhost. This one, I mean, it's tried and true. It's pretty simple. There's nothing crazy happening here. All conhost really does for us is provide us that shell window functionality you get whenever you open PowerShell command prompt, things like that. In the new Windows terminal, it's not directly used anymore, but it still exists on the platform for backwards compatibility reasons. And it's simple, right? You use it for execution. You call conhost, call whatever you want it to do. You could tell it to run a command. You can tell it to start something. Doesn't really matter. What is kind of funny, I was playing with this before we did this live stream today, is you could just kind of daisy chain conhost as much as you want and then tell it to do something after. So like say conhost times 100, then run your thing. Like it's going to look really weird, but it's probably going to mess people up when they look at that as an initial log. We're going to go research that one and play with it a little more. But yeah, quick and
simple. Have that one on. Yeah, Trey, like right before we started this, was like, "Hey, run this real fast and see what happens." It's like, all right, we'll try to include that in some future ones. So that's the con host, and then PCALUA. I call this Pukalakua. Is what I call this one. But the program compatibility assistant. So just another feature, like Noah is saying on here, just a lot of features that Windows has given us to be able to run different executables and run different executables and different scripts and things like that. We have on there, this one is pretty straightforward to run. You just call the compatibility assistant -A, and you tell it what you want to run, and then it'll just run for you. So pretty straightforward on that one, nothing too crazy. And then I think Trey's favorite one that we had found is this zip folder DLL.
Yeah, this one has been pretty cool. This is what's providing that whole like compression extraction functionality that's built into Windows now. So like when you right click a file and tell it to like send to a compressed folder, or like double click into an archive before extracting, that ability for you to actually like view the contents before you do anything with it, this DLL is what's kind of providing you that capability and built in for Explorer, as well as in the CLI. It allows you to do like compress archive and things like that. What's kind of interesting here is it's using an undocumented, again, this is pretty common in Windows, exported function called route the call, and we can use that to execute something. So like in this example, we use a quick trusty method, and you can see it in the LOLBAS project as well, where we call run DLL 32. Then we tell it to execute that zip folder DLL. From there, we're using the function or the entry space in this point, the route the call, sorry, and then have it run our totally legit shell.exe. You can also just have it call itself from an obfuscated perspective. So it'll understand for you to do, like you can see in the example on LOLBAS, like the up carrots, it works with those kind of strings as well. So it's a really interesting one. And it's just another great example of all of the undocumented features Windows has.
Yeah, for sure. One point, like, so we're not going to talk too much about detection pieces on this, but I can't help myself. The one piece with this that I do want to point out, something that we bring up, I feel like in every Thread Thursday, is that if you have a detection that is looking for calc.exe running by like a command line argument, this would just bypass that detection, right? Just from a simple up carrots that they have all throughout it. So again, focusing on parent processes, child processes, the images executing itself, and not so much on just like keyword searches or command line arguments, because you can see they could be very easily, you could very easily evade that from a detection standpoint. So with that, let's actually execute this. So we'll go back, grab direct download link.
So let you guys kind of see what happens in the back end here.
Yeah, I thought it'd be neat to show it and have all the stuff pop up. TT Live.
All acting fairly benign. I believe one of them is going to actually open a secondary shell for us, but for the most part, they pop calculator or something like that. But you can use your imagination as to how far you could take this. They're all really, really useful.
Yeah, useful and said very straightforward. All of these, like I said, didn't have to download anything or run anything other. Well, let me back it up. We did have to download like this, the Notepad script and pieces like that. But the actual execution pieces, we didn't download anything extra or have any other kind of packages installed. This is just, again, a default Windows server that we have in our lab environment. So with these starting to run in, so this one here, first up, this is the that Windows defaults. So this one, oh, look at that. So this one is going to set that registry value to then tell it to launch calc.exe. Obviously, again, you can change it to whatever you want. Second one is what tells it to delegate execute. So I understand it is a part of the UUAC bypass part of it. So that way, if you are running some kind of elevated process or something like that, it launches without you needing to confirm it, any creds, and then just running ComputerDefaults.exe will launch the calc. And then second one up is pester. So what I like about this one is that initially it tells you it fails because it's running this help null piece, which the help null piece you have to run in there because it's going to execute this secondary piece of it. But an interesting one in this, is that it's going to tell you that the first part didn't work, obviously, because you're doing a get help for a null, but then you can see the IP config right here below it. A little bit of a sneaky way to do it. And then next up, we run notepad.sct, or excuse me, we're going to download notepad.sct to just with the directory that we're in, and then it's going to run that. It says that it failed, didn't actually fail. The failures come from this process exit code. You can see that Notepad is up. So it says it failed because it's reg server 32 is trying to register a DLL. This is not a DLL. This is something it is trying not to do. So it says that it failed, but as you can see, that is not the case because Notepad popped up. And then the next one, just running conhost. We'll have a bunch of, we have two calcs in there. So just running conhost in headless mode and then cmd/c can tell it to run whatever file or executable you're trying to run. Downloader, I'm sure I probably already downloaded this. Yeah, so I already downloaded the shell, so that's why we get those errors. But we see the Puka is running the shell.exe, or the program compatibility is running the shell, and then the run DLL32 zip folder DLL is running also, which should execute our shell. Didn't yelled at me. Could be from all the testing pieces I was doing before. What we'll do instead is we'll do it live, and I will close all these calcs, then do another one. I bet I probably have an old download in there. Run. And see if we can get calc to pop on that. So we see that that one works, that calc opens, and then we just duplicate this to grab that other command. There you go. DL32, and then this one as well will have just run. Close that one. Boom. And then we see that it opened up. Yeah, I think that the shell, it was probably an old one from when I was testing it this morning. So that's my bad. But you can still see the execution piece. It does work. It does have it in there. All of these, again, are just there for you guys to use, right? I mean, everyone looks at what PowerShell is running or what CMD is running. It's maybe you're looking at what run DLL32 is running. Depends on how tuned you have your environment, I think, because that can really be quite a bit of processes and DLLs tied in to run DLL32, obviously. But yeah, everyone looks for what CMD and PowerShell are running, and a lot of the times don't have any detection set up for these kind of alternate methods of execution. And yeah, we just think they're super interesting. Had a fun time kind of running through all of them, seeing what does and doesn't still work. And there's lots more examples on the LOLBAS project page for you guys to go through on your own. There's download ones, there's execution ones, evasion, elevation, all kinds of stuff in there that is again very useful.
Good. That's actually a really good point there too, as well, Tyler. Is like anything, Windows is constantly updating and changing, right? That's kind of the name of the game here in IT and security. Uh, Not everything that's in the LOLBAS projects is still going to continue to work. One of my favorite ones that was kind of like a tried and true was utilizing Teams for execution. But Microsoft did a retirement of the old original Teams.exe and replaced it with a new one, ms-teams.exe, with different features and functionality. So like that original pathway for execution no longer works. There's some others that I want to try and kind of work around. Like there were some fun ones with using like Slack and other chat apps to have proxy execution, but we'll see if those work. Maybe we'll talk about them in another TT Live.
For sure. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. I really love this page, the LOLOLOL farm. So it's the living off the land. It's like a meta hosting of all the different repos for the living off the land binaries and scripts. So there's living off false positives, drivers, GTFO bins, which is essentially like the Linux Unix version of the living off the land project. Living off the land project that we pulled all of these from. And then a bunch of others that bring your own land, all kinds of very interesting things. But you can see there's probably, what, 20 or 30 of them in there. The people that are doing the work on the living off the land multiple projects are really just doing a great job. They're a great resource. And yeah, highly recommend checking them out. Seeing, we see more often than not that adversaries just use what's already there. Because why would you bring in something if you didn't have to? So it's important, just like it's important to have a baseline of your environment, utilizing the living off the land tools and baselining those and their normal kind of expected actions is something that I also think is pretty important and a great free resource that's out there for everybody.
Yeah, and again, if you guys aren't sure where to start when it comes to trying to see and detect these things in your logs, don't forget these projects. They also feed you all the different Sigma rules, Yara, things like that, in the breakdowns as well. So make sure you're paying attention to those if you don't currently have visibility. Those are easy wins.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing better than having a solution to a problem as soon as you find it, right? So definitely something to check out, and big shout out to everybody that manages that on their own time for free.
Well, I think that is probably all we had for you guys today. I think we'll catch you again on the 20th, right? Talking about LNK file abuse. So that should be interesting. Till next time, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.